Okay, so one other thing I wanted to cover in this video is actually manually applying specific slopes to things. So if I was to take this roof and flatten it out, so we'll set it to 0 inch 12. So this is a flat roof. Every 12 inches it goes up 0. So there we have a completely flat roof. Now, you can't actually do a flat roof, and you shouldn't, because if you have it completely flat, it'll end up probably bowing in the middle, collecting water, and then becoming very heavy, and bad things happen. So roofs aren't typically, a flat roof typically isn't a flat roof. So if we select the roof here, we get this modify roof option up here. We've been using the edit footprint up until this point. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add point. And it's going to kind of give me this weird graphic right here. Um, and so what I can do is I can click somewhere in this space. So let's say I click right here. And then when I hit escape, it automatically jumps over here to modify sub-elements. So this isn't something that's necessarily easy to see in plans, but typically you would create a high point on the roof where you would adjust it so that it drains water from that high point, or you would create a low point where water would drain or would go towards a drain, which you would more typically do in a much larger building. So I've created this point right here, and then I can hit these up and down arrows, but usually it does this. Oh, it didn't, go figure. Okay. For smaller things, it usually freaks out and does 6 inches and then throws an error. So typically you would only do something like on a roof, probably you'd do a 3-inch rise right here. Now again, that's not necessarily something that's super visible here on a roof, but for things like the patio that we created over here, or the little balcony, it might be appropriate to actually create a drainage point on this, or create a high point on this. So I could, unfortunately I also made this the way I did. But we could create a point right here and then drop that down a tiny bit, which would create a small slope in this. It's probably a terrible example. Other places you might use this is if you were creating a, like if you were drawing, say, a shower, you'd have the shower pan as its own separate unit or separate area, and then you would create a small point for the drain, for the water to drain to. And so Revit's actually going to indicate where these lines are, where that whatever that point is, and then you would have to document in an elevation. So if this, for example, was actually modified down, no, let's not do that far. Let's do 3 inches. Okay. So if this was modified down, you're still within that gap for the ceiling where you're not intruding, or your roof is not intruding on your ceiling. So you have plenty of place to put that concave area, and then you could drain out to the outside or whatever. Not a great way to do that, but theoretically possible. Anyway, so I wanted to show you guys this this last tool of modifying the sub elements when you create points. You can also add split lines to kind of, like, I think it automatically did that right here, to actually split one of these areas apart, and then adding a point will only affect that sub area. So you can break things apart to do multiple different areas. If this was a large warehouse roof, you could separate things. They actually have pick supports, but I don't think that we can do that because we haven't actually modeled the beams in the structure. Anyway, so just wanted to point that out to you guys because that's not necessarily something you'll use in our class, but it is something that would come in handy later on down the road. All right, that's all for this one.